Hello, this short webinar is provided by U.S. Civics Training. It's titled Ben Franklin, a Quick Study on His Faith and Actions. And the reason that this is needed is this. There are movements today that seek to make Franklin, and Jefferson too, anti-Christian. There's a determined effort to make him a practicing atheist, placing him in the camp of science and reason against faith, placing him as advocating no place for God in civil affairs and that faith as ignorant or irrelevant. And unfortunately, in this day and age, this mindset and thinking and propaganda has begun to rule the day. We know different if we've been walking through these history videos at USCivicstraining.org. In the Constitutional Convention speech that I've referenced before, I'm just going to give a short excerpt of it to reorient our minds again. In the beginning of the contest with Great Britain, when we were sensible of danger, we had daily prayer in this room for divine protection. Our prayers, sir, were heard, and they were graciously answered. All of us were engaged in the struggle, must have observed frequent instances of a superintending providence in our favor. Franklin did not believe in a watchmaker God that wound up the universe and went out for a long walk, but he believed in a personal God that heard prayer, guided nations, and acted on nations' behalf. Here's a quote from Franklin on virtue and freedom. Only a virtuous people are capable of freedom. As nations become corrupt and vicious, they have more need of masters. And he looked to the Bible as a good reference point, in fact, the best reference point of morals and values that the world had ever known. Here is from Articles of Belief and Acts of Religion, a personal prayer that Franklin wrote out in his own hand. And this was his prayer to God. And for as much as ingratitude is one of the most odious vices, let me not be grateful to acknowledge the favors I receive from heaven. For all thy innumerable benefits, for life and reason and the use of speech, for health and joy in every pleasant hour, my good God, I thank thee. He goes on. This is another version that he wrote in his own hand, and he wrote this out as his expression of the Lord's Prayer. Heavenly Father, may all revere thee, and become thy dutiful children and faithful servants. May thy laws be obeyed on earth as perfectly as they are in heaven. Provide us this day as thou hitherto daily hast done. Forgive us our trespasses, and enable us likewise to forgive those that offend us. Keep us out of temptation, and deliver us from evil. And so again, these two sentiments written in his own hand are expressions of his faith. As a tangible expression, George Whitefield was an English traveling evangelist in the colonies that God used mightily during the Great Awakening in the colonies. He brought unity amongst the colonies that preceded the Revolutionary War and really allowed the colonies to think of themselves as one and to fight together. Franklin would frequently go out and hear Whitefield preach. He helped support his ministry, and he'd have personal conversations with him. When asked about his creed later in life, he wrote this letter to Ezra Stiles in 1790. Here is my creed. I believe in one God, the creator of the universe, that he governs it by his providence, that he ought to be worshipped, that the most acceptable service we render to him is in doing good to his other children, that the soul of man is immortal and will be treated with justice in another life, respecting its conduct in this. These I take to be the fundamental points in all sound religion, and what this would have been understood to mean at the time is that all Christian denominations, not universal across all religions, but universally amongst Christian denominations. And I regard them, that is Jesus' teaching, as Jesus' teaching is consistent throughout all the denominations. And then he gets specific. As to Jesus of Nazareth, my opinion of whom you particularly desire, I think the system of morals and his religion as he left them to us is the best the world has ever saw or is likely to see. And so he elevates the morals of the Bible and the teachings of Jesus as the best the world has ever seen. In this letter, he didn't express his personal faith, so I'm not going to try and force that into his words here. I do know that Franklin frequently went to different styles of denominational services, and he was not one that wanted to be pinned down on things. And so it would be just like him not to answer the question directly so that he was not put in a box. But I don't want to force meaning into Franklin's words here other than his high elevation of Christianity and Jesus. Here are the doctrines he felt were vital of importance to be shared and preached: that there's one God, Father of the universe, that he's infinitely good, powerful, and wise, that he's omnipresent, that he ought to be worshipped by adoration, prayer, thanksgiving, both in public and in private, that he will reward people in this world or the hereafter, and that men's minds do not die with their bodies, but are made more happy or miserable after this life according to their actions. Can you imagine these things being shared in public schools? Well, this concludes my short excerpts of a quick study on his faith and actions. Franklin is a hard one to pin down on his specific view of Jesus Christ and his personal belief in him, but all of his actions, public, private, and his writings, universally endorse the Christian religion, the Bible, and a biblical worldview of God, and all those things are incorporated into his sentiments, his life, and the founding documents and principles that he helped put in to the foundations of the American Republic. My name's Craig Seibert. Thank you for listening.